very fun area of Ableton. One of my favorites, and that is working with white noise to basically create like like weather sounds. I mean, I guess you could say nature sounds, like more like environment, atmospheric sounds, but using white noise. And I found that this can actually be one of the most relaxing sounds, even more relaxing than like meditative, like ambient music. And we can either do this with analog, because we need white noise, or operator. Or you can, if you had a sample of white noise, you could throw that into simpler. That's something that you could do. But I want to show you the easiest way, and that is to use operator analog, and I'll show you how to get white noise. So right now we're in operator. On operator, it's by default, it has oscillator A here active. It's got the level all the way up, and it's got a sine wave. Now we want to change that. And I might as well drop a spectrum on here. So as we recall, sine wave is just one pitch with no harmonics. There you go, just one pitch. And then as we saw, if we go to something with more harmonics, like a saw 8, we're going to get that fundamental with an additional 8 harmonics. Or I believe 7 harmonics. With the fundamental, it's 8, that's why it's a saw 8. If we move up the list, we get that. But white noise is very different. And I'm going to lower this frequency a little bit to save your ears, because it's all the frequencies. It's all the frequencies all across at, I guess, same intensity or same volume. So I'm going to lower this filter a little bit. Obviously, if I open it up, you'll see these over here go up. And so you get this nice sound. Now I'm going to unarm this track and arm the analog. The analog, if we double click, this is what my default looks like. This might be what yours looks like, but you want to come into oscillator A and select noise. Now, if you have oscillator 2 on, turn it off. We don't need any of this on down here. I mean, we could use it later, but we just want oscillator 1, filter 1, and amp 1 turned on. Again, you want to choose the noise waveform, and we're on low pass filter again. We're going to lower the frequency. Okay, and that's running into an amp envelope. If yours sounds different, maybe yours looks like this, and it means the volume envelope goes down. I'm just putting the volume envelope all the way up. Actually, I might knock it down the tiniest bit and give a little bit of decay, just so when I hit a note, it'll fade in nicely. Maybe more than that. I'm going to take this frequency down a little bit more. And again, this the envelope changed because that's the envelope for filter, which we're not using right now. And then amp, we've got the amp on like this. You might see over here envelope to velocity we don't need that. I'm putting that on 0, so every note will play the same. And then filter frequency, I don't know if you have anything assigned envelope here, but I would put that at 0. And then envelope velocity, I have mine at 0. Yours might be up at some amount, but I just don't want, I want every note to play regardless of velocity, and regardless of any other little modulations. So again, here's the sound we have. It's fading in because this is the volume envelope with an attack of a second. I'm going to give it some release. I'm going to up this volume. And I'm going to play with operator first, then I'm going to go back to analog. And I'm going to come into filter here. See this? We got our filter. So resonance you can modulate, filter frequency you can modulate, very quickly, and I push Shift Tab to get back to this view. Why would you want to use analog or operator? Really, it's just your preference. All noise waveforms should be the same. The only reason why someone might prefer to use analog is because this is trying to mimic the characteristics of a analog hardware synthesizer. When we run this, the difference would be possibly with this filter. And again, you would have to use your ears for it, which is why we're going to use both, just to show you can do it with both. But so when this noise oscillator runs into this filter, apparently this filter will be adding more of a analog circuit kind of character with this frequency, because that's what analog hardware synthesizers do, or they did. They did that, and and that's why when we play analog now, sounds like the resonance is doing more to the sound than it was with operator. In fact, maybe we should just use analog. Whereas if we go into operator here, it's like not as much is happening. And that's because this operator is meant to be a digital synthesizer, and it's not going to have like unusual peculiarities built into the filter frequency. But we can actually change that by making sure we have a filter drive setting started. And now if we crank it or add some of this filter drive amount, we're getting more life or more frequency, more added timbre quality to this. It doesn't really matter what you use, but you know me, I'm trying to be all extra informative, because people out there like me probably have some of these questions. So what we're going to do first is we'll play with analog first. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to minimize these. It's just an EQ8, cutting out some of the lowest lows. I have these on all my tracks, a compressor, just adding a tiny bit of compression. Just because, at least in my humble opinion, any track that you have in Ableton, you're probably going to have an EQ or a compressor on it at some point. You know what I mean? Especially when you're finishing, a little compression is certainly not bad. And, you always want to cut out the lowest lows, because it's not going to do that for you in default. Now, anyways, I'm actually going to turn this filter off, because I don't really need this filter to do what I'm going to do. Now, when I turn this off, it's really the same thing as if I had this filter on all the way up. So listen to this. Now, if I turn that off, and that's because it's got this long release, it's going to have the same sound, because nothing's happening with the filter. Before letting everything through, that's just showing you that, well, we don't really need that, because we can come into audio effects and use Ableton's auto filter. Why do I want to use auto filter? Because I'd rather just look at it right here and see it moving here, just because I'd rather have this graphical display. So if we had filter frequency all the way up, it would be the same thing. I would just rather see this, okay? Just because I'd rather see it move like that. And really, there's nothing I even need to do with this analog. Just like with the operator, it's providing a very basic task. All it's doing is outputting noise. Now we're on our white noise. Notice how we don't have any of these highs. But if we move up the filter frequency, you see them coming back. Now we can come down here and add a little bit of extra harmonic character with a little bit of drive. That's a good one to modulate as well, because it's almost like it's giving more intensity to our storm. So again, this auto filter, which really we can just call a filter, I'm using it in place of this one, because this is not doing anything for me that like I need, and I want to be able to see this filter right here. I'm going to do a little bit of modulation with an LFO. I want to see it moving. I can see this. This is the resonance going up. And by the way, you can control them here by dragging this filter frequency. If it's moving too quick, if you hold shift, it moves slower. Same thing with resonance. Resonance just provides a boost at the cutoff frequency. And then this is for our drive. But we can also come in here and drag this yellow ball so it's we're moving them at the same time. And the thing with white noise is it doesn't matter what pitch you play, it's always the same. So if I play octaves down, it sounds the same. Octaves up, it sounds the same. The only way it wouldn't do that is if you had a key amount assigned to the filter. Key modulation is the higher you play up the keyboard, it will open the filter for you, whether or not you decided to do that or not. So if you're playing different notes and you're getting higher amounts of frequency as if you play higher notes, what it's doing is the higher keys you play, this is opening up. Some synthesizers, and in fact, I think Operator has it on by default. I was in fact very shocked why it wasn't responding that way, but it's right here, this key on the filter section should be 0. If it's up, then the higher you play, under the hood, it will be moving up the filter frequency. Obviously, we have this turned off, so it won't do it anyway. But if we come into Operator, I had to turn this off, but when I went into Filter, this frequency down here should be at 0, but they had it on as 100%. I don't know if that's what yours is, but I put it on 0, and then if you right-click on the title bar, you can save as default preset. So just wanted to show you that. And same thing with analog here. If you right-click and anything, you can save as default preset. So each time you come into Instruments and you drag it down, you will get the default. That'll be your default preset. I haven't changed too much in a lot of mine. Only things that should clearly be turned off or clearly be turned on, in my opinion. That's what I would do. So in any event, we click some notes, and we've got the basics. What do I mean, the basics? I mean the basics. We have white noise, and we are using the most basic filter, the low pass filter, which says let all of the lows pass up to this cutoff amount. So if we're up here at 1500 hertz, we're letting all of the lowest frequencies up to 1500 hertz come through. So, and not to mention, we've got this resonance. I can take away all the resonance and just find a sound that is very pleasing to me. Now, if I click a button, I'm playing my thing. Every note sounds the same. But if you wanted to just play continuously while you make tweaks, what you want to do is you want to double click and create a clip. As I mentioned, doesn't matter which note you do, all of them will sound the same. We can come over here to note length. Let's type something in crazily long, like 120. And with this still selected down here, still highlighted, click legato. Now click play. Now I don't have to hit any notes, and I can literally just find out where I like it. Now if we want some movement to that, we can add the LFO amount here. See, it's moving up. This is actually moving up, but we can't see it. Watch when I click up the rate. What that's doing is it's doing that really fast. But we don't see it move. The reason why we don't see it move is because this device was created a long time ago. In the future, I would have to think with the next update, Live 12, it will move because there's no reason not to have that visual feedback. So what do? Well, we use the wonderful LFO under Audio Effects. We click Map, and we click what we want to map. Now, we took the depth down a lot. We're going to click the offset down. We're going to take the rate far down. I'm going to take the depth down more. Take the rate down more. Look how it's moving. So here's the thing, guys, and I just took the volume down on the analog. You could really take the volume down anywhere. So this is very pleasing because white noise, when you're filtering out all of these high frequencies, it sounds very pleasing. In fact, this depth is still too high. Now, what I like about this is if you're like outside on a windy day or there's just ambient noise, you know, it's not just going to be static like this. Like I turn the LFO off, it's just at 358. Kind of, it sounds like when you listen to this white noise, it almost kind of sounds like it is moving. So if you're trying to create like just very like music you can study to, this, like I'm telling you, this is just as effective. This is just as effective as like for relaxation and concentration, because like when you have like more of like an ambient kind of song, quote unquote, there's gonna be like a lot of like melodic stuff in there. You know, even if it's very slow, like, you know, and sometimes it might be very melodic, like, you know what I mean? But sometimes when you are in a certain phase where you can't concentrate for shit, you like need something like this. Like this like almost like entrains your damn brain and like makes it more conducive. So you can click through these filter drives. They'll just add like different stuff. Maybe you like how it sounds up here. And then I'm actually gonna get that LFO back. I just cut it out and then paste it back in. And now it's modulating this frequency a little bit. I'm gonna put it on, do a little bit of jitter so it just moves. So it's not like completely, like maybe that's just like a little bit more natural. Because we have a sine wave after all. We could go to random, but I don't know if I really like it as much. Well, here, because I like that jitter, but let's just do it. Let's just do it. Let's go random. Probably gotta give it more depth. See, it's like choosing. I don't really want it to be, I want it to be more smooth, like, you know what I mean? So, yeah, unless that's what you want, I would rather have it sine wave with a slow rate, slow depth meaning it's not going all the way up, all the way down, because I don't want it to go up here. I might introduce in our operator, I might do a bandpass and do some stuff up here. But we'll do that later. So right now, the jitter is more than perfect, and it actually does a better job than what I would have thought the random would have done. By the way, if it seems like I'm getting way too complicated with too much stuff, I have to do it. These are deep dives, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so I like the way this sounds. I'm gonna lower the depth a little bit more. I'm gonna bring up the volume a little bit more because I want it to stay down here. In fact, I want to see how high this goes, because if this goes up to like 400 yeah, that's why I got to take depth down more. It went up to almost 500. I don't want it to go up that much. I want to put the depth at 9. I'll put this on 0.03. What I want to do is I want to keep it roughly at the same point, but I want a little bit of movement, and that is changing up the harmonics and thus is making it sound more predictable. Now listen now look what's happening now, because like that's what'll happen when you're like outside in nature. Like it might be dude, we need less depth. That's crazy. I'm gonna take some of the volume down. Even just these little tweaks is like fun for me. Take the resonance down a little bit. Let's click this, then map resonance. Too high, too high, too high. Take it down to where we want it. I just want little movement. Oh, you push this to go back. I'm gonna lower this a little bit. Got a little bit louder. Take the drive down a little bit. Each one of these will have a slightly different harmonic profile. So now let's option click this over and click play and go into operator. Could pan these. Let's check out operator. It's doing the same thing, except we don't have any LFO on this filter frequency. I want to keep them spread like this for like a good different kind of a width. It's sounding really good to me. So I'm going to get this LFO. And again, I know what I want. Very low. Map it. Take the offset down. They're not going to be the same. And because they're not the same, when you spread them across the stereo field, you're getting width. Like this now sounds so much wider. So now you basically just made it more pleasing to listen to, because there's different stuff in the left ear and the right ear, which would be how it would be if you were out walking in nature. Like let's pretend that we were walking outside in nature. Now, I got a good idea. Well, first of all, I think I'm getting way too much high frequency. I'm gonna lower the volume a little bit here. I'm gonna come over to this and I'm gonna knock this down a little bit on the offset. Because right now, okay, that's better. Our operator white noise was going up too high, and I wasn't liking the way it was sounding. I'm going to lower this filter drive, go to OSR. The other one's on a different one, so just things to play with. I'm going to put a little bit of jitter on this as well. It's moving very slowly. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put, rename this LPF, low pass filter, white noise, low pass filter, white noise. I'm just gonna color code this. And the reason why I have two is because they're similar, but now we basically just have a wider, more stereophonic image. And now I want to add something different, and we're gonna use a different filter. Insert a MIDI track. And because it really doesn't matter, because we're just going to be using Ableton's standalone filter, I'm just going to drop an operator. And I'm going to go to white noise. I'm going to option drag it over here. And I'm going to look at the envelope. I'm going to, even though it doesn't really matter, I'm just going to give it a little bit of an attack, even though this thing is just going to play really loud for a long time. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to turn this filter frequency off, this filter section off, just to show you, because obviously we're not using it. I'm going to minimize this, and then I'm going to go to audio effects, and I'm going to get the filter again. And then I'm going to get an LFO, because I want to see it. I just like this display the most. I'm trying to make this as pleasing for me, and I'm then going to also get spectrum. Now, I'm going to push Shift Tab and I'm going to click this. We're still on low pass filter, so. Now I'm going to do a different one. I'm going to do band pass. I'm going to click 12 so more comes through. I'm going to map the filter. I'm just going to put a utility here just so I can simply just turn it down. Maybe I actually do want this one. Slower depth. I want like a wind. I'm not liking the way it sounds yet. I don't know why. Here, I'm gonna drag this ball, see if I can... Is it going up too high? I don't know. I think it's moving too fast. By the way, if you jack the jitter up, you can always smooth it out. Is that sounding more realistic? Sometimes I don't even look at it and I just use my ears and just think, when does it sound better? Maybe a faster rate and like a really slow depth. I don't know. We're getting crazy here. And the jitter is like... Because like when you listen to wind, when you really listen to wind, like it's very random, you know what I mean? Like this actually might be too like non-random. Like just use your ears even when you're not using Ableton or listening to music. Like listen to it when you're like going on a walk, you know what I mean? And that's actually a very good way to be mindful and like take yourself outside of your overthinking mind, your ego, is you like pay attention to like sense perceptions, like the way your body feels, the way it feels to like your feet on the ground, you know what I'm saying? This is too jittery. I just don't like the sound of it. Like I'm not trying to mimic nature, I'm just trying to create something pleasing that sounds vaguely like it, because ultimately this is for me to like feel good and like chilled out. Let's play with this resonance. In fact, let's go and map the resonance. Let's take it down, it's too strong. And let's also map the drive, take it way down. That actually sounds a little bit better. Let's push Shift Tab and look, see, we got our little band pass. Let's push Command D, duplicate it, click play. Let's make a different one. This one, just take the volume down a little bit, and then we'll shift it up more. We'll take the resonance much. Maybe this might be rain, possibly. Oh my god, we haven't even used reverb yet. Wow. This is how powerful this is. Ah, now it's sounding more like rain because we got the reverb going. And it sort of smooths out the super high stuff. Alright, I don't really need the spectrum anymore. Just muted these. Sound good? Take this all the way down. Unmute it, bring it up. Do the same thing for the highs. That's not good that sounds. Let's bring up our, let's just call this one like rain. Let's bring it up. You probably want it lower. bring this one up. Let's call this wind. I want to go in here and make it lower. Take this down, maybe. This spectrum's getting in the way. By the way, let's insert a return track. Let's call it verb 1. And let's go into rain. And where do we put that reverb? Okay, we're going to drag it to return track. And we're going to put the dry wet all the way up to 100% wet. And we're going to put a utility on here because I find it's very low. And I'm going to boost it by 7.7 just because. I'm going to put a limiter on here, not that we need it. And let's mute these. Now we just are only hearing wind. Now if we turn this, we'll send it. Now let's do the same thing for rain. Bring it up till I like it, then let's add some reverb. The reverb sort of like washes it out. Okay, now let's do one of the lower noises. Actually, it's just good right up here. Let's bring this guy in. So now they sound like they're all happening in like a 3D environment, and you can just like tweak these till it sounds right. I'm really liking that. What to do, what to do. Let's see, what if I group these? Command G. Let's call this weather system. And I'm gonna drop a glue compressor. Push soft clip. Release on automatic. I'm gonna keep going till it moves. Okay, now we're getting some compression. It's just gonna like glue things together without. It's just a little bit to make it more cohesive. And then we can go and we can get a auto filter again and just cut out, if we think it's too bright, wait, for some reason... Oh, it's because there's high... I was going to say, I was like, there should be no sound. But it's because we're hearing what's coming out of our return track. See if we turned it off. So that's fine. That's fine. So I'm just going to find an area I like. In fact, we can even come over here and drop an auto filter on. Can drag a delay on here. Limiter just so I know if we're peaking somehow. I like to take it off and do it here so we get more like stereo width. Take the rate down very low and get a little bit of modulation. I don't think we really need it too much. So that dry means no delay, and then we're adding the delayed signal in slightly. Could even go to LFO. It's like I almost just know what I want. Map it to dry wet. Take the offset down maybe a little bit. And let's listen. Sounds amazing. Relax. If it's too much, you can always just go, oh, I don't want that, or don't want that. And listen how nice that sounds. Almost makes me want to readjust these. So if you've got some sort of like MIDI controller, you know, you can be like pushing up the track fader, so you can be doing this while you're not even like using, what's it called? You don't even have to be using like your computer or whatever. So, sort of a interesting idea that I have is another way you could do this as well is, or like another idea is instead of doing them like track for track, you know, and then grouping them in a master track, and then like adjust these like volumes or whatever, you could have done it a different way where you insert a MIDI track here and you were to drop an instrument rack. Okay, never mind. You would drop an instrument rack and then you could just drag multiple operators, right? So like you could have an operator, an analog, and then you could right-click and map to macro 1. So this will be the volume of this operator chain, map to macro 2. And so if you wanted, you could just be turning them on and off. Maybe this one would be low ambiance, you know, low ambiance. And then the analog one, maybe that would be like your wind sound. So you would just come in here, wind, and then you could use like the macro knobs and you could do that. Same thing, you would just be pushing up faders over here, but just meaning like you could keep cranking all of these different ones in a big instrument rack, and then because they're all on that same track, everything you would put here over here would affect the whole chain. So these are a lot of ideas. To be honest, we didn't really do anything complicated today. In fact, I probably just made it be extra complicated, but it's because I wanted you to literally know every single possibility, every option, and every reason why we're doing it the way that we do it, or the way that I'm doing it. And I think, I mean, hell, you could even put an LFO on these, you know what I mean? So hope this gives you some ideas. You don't even need any of these. You can just have like one track playing. Sounds good, that's all you need. But why do that when you can have all the other stuff? Another thing too is you can always go into rain, and if you're like, hey, we're still getting too much high stuff through, you can always. So now it's never going beyond this no matter what, even if that is. Let's see here. No, I think we'll just, I was gonna say, basically, that we could do one of these. In fact, we might as well do it now. Let's get analog. Noise oscillator. It does the... I don't know if that's really the best sound for it. Let's put it on notch. Okay, maybe we do need this. Let's map it to resonance, of course. Let's get this slower. We'll call this wind rain mix. Maybe more depth. Up and to the right, up and to the right. Yeah. Let's go on the reverb. Get some more decay. Tighten this up. Maybe let's get another return track. Verb 2. Convolution Reverb Pro 2. That's obviously Send B. High, dry, wet. We've already got a gain knobber down here. Gonna throw an auto filter on, put it on high pass, just to cut out any of the deepest lows. Actually, I'm gonna put it on this, so I cut out the highest highs and the deepest lows. Actually, I'll do that over here instead on the EQ, but I am going to make sure the dry wet is 100% wet. Limiter, because it comes in a little like low in volume. And let's see how this Arundel Navel Cave will do. Just using our ears. So without. Autofilter. Autofilter. Wonderful, wonderful. Let's take some of the feedback down. We put it to. And that's it. Good day.